Hi everyone, my name is Darian Golden and I will be presenting on multiple sclerosis and the positive benefits that exercise can provide for individuals that suffer from this debilitating disease. So, first, what is multiple sclerosis? Multiple sclerosis involves an immune-mediated process in which an abnormal response of the body's immune system is directed against the central nervous system, also known as the CNS, and it is considered a progressive neurological disease. So what does this really mean? So in the CNS, the immune system is going to attack myelin, which is a fatty substance that protects nerve fibers and allows for neural transmission to be conducted quickly. So when the myelin sheath and or nerve fiber is damaged or destroyed, neural impulses that would be initially very quick between the brain, spinal cord, and optic nerve, it's then compromised and it's not going to happen as quickly, and bodily movements aren't going to happen as quickly. So now that we are aware of what is going on in the immune system and how our own body is attacking the CNS, what comes next? So when the multiple sclerosis is occurring and you're having these attacks, the damaged myelin is going to form scar tissue, and the scar tissue is going to prohibit normal functioning, and then that is essentially where the disease gets its name. Sclerosis is the root word for hardening, and multiple sclerosis comes from many bouts of this happening. So what is the role of myelin in the CNS? So myelin is extremely important. It is present in the central nervous system and the autonomic nervous system. Specifically in the CNS, myelin is produced by special cells that are called oligodendrocytes, as opposed to the autonomic nervous system where you will have Schwann cells that are producing the same myelin. It's just two different cells producing the same thing. So the composition of myelin, 20% fat and 80% lipids. And this allows the nerve fibers to be extremely insulated and has extremely high velocities of action potentials that enables the action potentials to jump from myelin sheath to myelin sheath. As you can see in the diagram on the left-hand side, we have an axon with an oligodendrocyte, and then we have the myelin sheath, and in between each myelin sheath you're going to have a node of Ranvier. And that is going to be an uninsulated portion of the axon that has high ion channels, which is going to allow the action potential to jump back and forth between and have that high velocity. So what are the function of T cells in multiple sclerosis? So what exactly is a T cell? A T cell is a type of leukocyte in the immune system, which is just another name for a white blood cell, and it is activated by helper T cells that are unknown triggers, and they allow the other T cells to come into the CNS through blood vessels, and they produce inflammation. So this is an example of how your own body, your own immune system is attacking its nervous system. So the cells are cloned and then they acquire the same myelin-specific activation that is needed and accessible to cross over the blood-brain barrier, and that allows it to go through, makes it permeable, and it starts to call on other macrophages and B cells and other cells in your immune system, and it's all going to start attacking the myelin together, and it acts as an autoimmune response. And then over time, you're going to have the damaged nerve cell. It's going to create those plaques and lesions everywhere in the white matter all throughout your central nervous system. So what causes multiple sclerosis? Over time, scientists have been able to do some research, but the etiology is still unknown. There are some factors that play into it that researchers and scientists have come up with, and a few of these are immunologic factors, genetic factors, environmental factors, and infectious factors. So as for the immune system, I already described how our body is going to attack itself. Our T cells are going to see the myelin as an invader, and they will go through and they will attack it. That's going to create a delay in neural transmission, action potentials, and everything is going to slow down, and that's where you'll see your signs and symptoms due to that. More research is being conducted on this, and scientists do want to figure out why the immune cells are, attacking itself. As for genetic factors, their chances are a lot higher if your immediate family member has already suffered from this. So mom, dad, brother, sister, it's in your genes. Scientists also believe that people with MS have a genetic predisposition to a specific environmental agent. So that meaning that you are born with a certain predisposition, and then once your body comes into contact with that throughout your lifetime, you will then start to see the signs and symptoms of multiple sclerosis through coming into contact with that environmental agent. As for environmental factors, researchers have suggested that your geography may play into this. This meaning that people that are further away from the equator may have a higher chance of getting multiple sclerosis. They believe that if you're closer and you're closer to sunlight and you have more vitamin D, then this may be a reason that you are better off and you have a higher chance of retaining your healthy, normal functioning and not getting this disease. Another environmental factor is smoking. We know that smoking has a lot of adverse effects, so it seems common knowledge that this smoking and as an environmental factor for multiple sclerosis is only going to make things worse and could potentially be a cause. As for infectious factors, exposure to viruses and bacteria and microbes when you're young, that may transform over into your immune system, and then it may lay dormant in there for a few years, and then when you are subjected to something in the environment that just doesn't click, you might just have some kind of reaction that onsets your immune system to go haywire. Viruses are known for demyelinization, so because of this, there are a dozen viruses that are being researched in order to rule them out so that they aren't the cause. Just a few of these viruses are classified as measles, human herpes 6, and canine distempt. Are a whole plethora of symptoms that are present with multiple sclerosis, all due to your central nervous system being taken down. These include, but are not limited to, the list that I have up here, just a few of those being mobility and gait issues, cognitive changes, fatigue, visual disorders, spasticity, heat and cold intolerances, and numbness. This all happens because of the plaques and lesions that are present upon the axons and neural fibers. There are no specific symptoms, tests, or physical findings that can stand alone to prove a diagnosis for multiple sclerosis. So in order for a diagnosis for MS to be made, there are a series of things that need to happen. As listed in my slide, the first thing is that there has to be evidence of damage in two parts of the CNS, that being the brain, spinal cord, or optic nerves. Just has to be two different places. And then after that, you have to have evidence that damage has occurred 1 month apart. So through an MRI, you can have one test, and then a month later, you can have a test again to see that something else has happened. And then the last thing that needs to occur is that doctors have to rule out all other possible diagnoses. So demyelinating diseases are prevalent. They are not the only things that are going to occur in multiple sclerosis, so it just needs to be ruled out that it is nothing else in order to have this diagnosis. So some tools that are used to make a diagnosis are MRI, cerebrospinal fluid analysis, and then evoked potentials. So evoked potentials is simply a procedure that is done. It can be performed on visually or sensory related, and that will just see how quickly your body can respond to something that is being done to it with such action potentials. So after that, the types of multiple sclerosis that are currently present. There are 4 different paths that multiple sclerosis can take. The first is a clinically isolated syndrome. So what this is the first episode of a neurologic symptom that causes inflammation or demyelination, and it needs to last for at least 48 hours, and it doesn't just yet meet the criteria for MS, but it has something similar, and that's why it is considered an isolated syndrome. After that, we have relapsing remitting MS, which is abbreviated RMMS. So this is the most common disease course. It is characterized by multiple defined attacks, which are known as relapses or exacerbations, which is why relapse is in the name. And then during a remission, which is going to be a period of time where you may not be experiencing symptoms, they can disappear or they can remain and become permanent in your lifestyle. Of the last 2 types of MS, they are primary progressive MS and secondary progressive MS. Primary is characterized by worsening of neurologic function, and it has the accumulation of disability. So basically what that means is that after you experience these symptoms over time, they are getting worse and they can turn into a disability that prevents you from living your everyday life the way you did prior. Secondary progressive MS follows a relapsing remitting. So you can start out with RMMS and then turn into SPMS. People that have this suffer from worsening of symptoms and the disease is getting stronger, which is very similar to the primary. MS is currently incurable. Treatment and medication is the best course of action. There are many medications that are available that can help with specific symptoms, which I have listed on the right-hand side. Over on the left, we have meds that can modify the disease course, and if given early enough, they can maybe help prevent some symptoms and lessen the severity of these symptoms. In addition to that, we have treatment. We can do physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech-language pathology. All of these things are very good options in helping someone live a healthy, happy life. Associated with MS can affect the way our body responds to exercise. This can be due to the way the neurons are destroyed because of demyelination, and because of this, people that suffer from MS sometimes have a higher metabolic rate, and some of these things are due to ataxia and spasticity, and the best thing that we can do is make exercise prescriptions that really focus on the specific symptoms and making them better. Exercise has many benefits for healthy individuals, as it does for people with chronic diseases as well. It's very important to get people exercising whether they have a disease or not. This can help their symptoms. So here I have for my case study a 29-year-old woman. I chose a woman because women are twice as likely to get a diagnosis for multiple sclerosis than men out of the 400,000 individuals in America. Some key things for her is that she has been living a sedentary lifestyle and that she does have a few risk factors. Her special considerations are due to excessive fatigue and ataxia due to MS. And then she also has some bouts with spasticity and wants to get rid of that with regular stretching, and she wants to be able to live a healthy life with her daughter. So with that, her risk stratification has come back with 4 risk factors, which puts her at moderate risk. And in addition to that, I have chosen to do just a few exercise testing with CV, strength training, and flexibility that all focus on her symptoms. The FIT principle here all is geared towards things that are going to help her spasticity and ataxia, and it's very, very specific. And last but not least, multiple sclerosis is a demyelinating disease, but we can still live a healthy lifestyle if we have this disease through proper exercise.